I'm Pastor Bill Shults, and I want to welcome you to the Hungry Hearts Church service in Jackson, Tennessee. Hungry Hearts Church is non-denominational with the use of certain Hebrew worship tools like this tallit or the shofar. We believe that Yeshua Messiah died to pay for the sins of all mankind, and having accepted his sacrifice for our sins, we live by all of his commandments. We're filled with his Spirit, and we worship him with it. And today we're going to present to you a great message directly from the Word of God. Basics. You know, we tackle Bible prophecy. Everybody wants to get into the esoteric stuff, and I say ditto and amen. I love the deep esoteric stuff too, and all the little crazy things, and that's all fun. But in order to understand the deep spiritual things in prophecy, we have to first master the basics. And Lenise will tell you, I talk about this all the time. If you want the deep spiritual meaning, it's attached to the literal. Amen. So if you want to talk about Sabbath and you want the deep spiritual meaning of the Sabbath, you cannot find it while you are not actually observing the Sabbath. And I have a lot of people say, oh yes, I'm keeping the Sabbath in spirit while they're working. Well, you're not keeping the Sabbath at all. You got no deep spiritual anything because you're breaking Sabbath. Therefore, you have no meaning after that. It's over. And we're going to get into that actually a little bit today. So another example I had was a lady turned 80 years old on one of the jobs I clean, and they've got these balloons, 80, right, for her little birthday celebration, but they're anchored to the floor by a weight, meaning that without the weight, they float off. So if you don't have the literal Peshat meaning of any verse, you cannot hold sewed. You're going to float off somewhere it doesn't belong. The two go together to keep them. And that's a truism you can find throughout the Bible. The Peshat is going to help you to understand the sewed, but it's also going to keep you from running off someplace you shouldn't go. Amen? Now, Darash, the right now meaning for your life, and then there's the Remez, the kingdom meaning. So we're going to get into some prophecies in a few minutes. And we're going to talk about Peshat, and we're going to talk about sewed. Amen? Now, there are plenty of Darash meanings. We're just not going to cover those today. And the problem is that when we got into prophecy in years past, we went from Peshat to Darash and called that sewed, and that was the end of the story. We didn't go any further. And then when it didn't all work out the way we said, people said, well, you guys aren't real. Because, you see, prophecy has to work out. Oh, yeah, it got me. So we're going to start Matthew 24. Matthew 24 is the place to start if you want to understand prophecy. Well, Pastor Bill, why is that? Prophecy start in Genesis. Well, that is correct. Prophecy start in Genesis. But Yeshua explains prophecy to you in Matthew 24. All right, so if you don't go with his explanation, what do you have? Not a whole lot. All right, so Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to the buildings. And they said, look at all these great buildings. And Jesus said, do you see all these things? Truly, I tell you, not one stone will be left on another. Every one will be cast down. So we read over it. We don't think too much about it. And then we talk about the Western Wall. Oh, yeah, Pastor Bill, the Western Wall, foundation of Solomon's temple. We found the stones underground. Well, here's what happened. When they burned Jerusalem, all the gold in the temple melted down into stones, and the Roman soldiers pried them apart, digging out the gold between the stones. There were no stones left on another. So if those were the foundation stones, they would not still be standing. I'll give you another one. All right. In the 30s, the British had a mandate over Palestine. Amen? And there is a picture from the Royal Air Force of the city of David from the air in the 1930s. It's farmer fields. It's farmer fields. And there's a prophecy in Micah that says Zion will be plowed like a field. The Temple Mount has never been plowed. At any point in time, anywhere. So guess what? God's true and every man a liar. Therefore, the temple has got to be down in the city of David. Oh, you're not allowed to say that, Pastor Bill. Well, I just did. As he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, they go over to the Mount of Olives. The disciples came to him and said, tell us what's going to happen next. You know what we always want to know? We don't, prophecy in Genesis, not all that important to us, amen? We want to know what's going to happen next. We're sitting up in here in 2023 with a moron running this country in the ground, and we want to know what's going to happen to us. Well, that's a valid point, right? So he says, watch out, no one deceives you. Watch out, no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming that he is the Messiah, and will deceive many. He didn't say few. He said the many are going to be deceived. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it you're not alarmed. Such things have to happen, and then the end will come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There'll be natural disasters, famines, earthquakes. He could have added floods. He did add floods in Luke, by the way. So you see, you get different writers pulling different things. So he might have added floods. Matthew just didn't catch that, but Luke caught the floods, the roaring of the oceans, put men in panic. Yeah. All these are just the beginning of the birth pains, not up to the real stuff, just the beginning of the birth pains. Then you'll be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you'll be hated by all nations because of me. Now, I just want to point out that when you got dual prophecy, past fulfillment guarantees future results. Amen. You know, you buy mutual funds, they tell you past performance is no guarantee of future results, but in prophecy it is. So if Jesus is telling you in the end you're going to be persecuted, and they got persecuted right after he left the earth, that means persecution be coming. You follow what I'm saying? Past performance is guaranteed. At that time, many are going to turn from the faith and will betray and hate each other. That's going on now, right? False prophets will appear and deceive many people. All right, so I know nothing about Facebook, okay? So I was told to get on Facebook and friend as many people as possible, and they would somehow follow the ministry. Okay, that's what I was told. I know nothing, right? I am Sergeant Shults all the way. And so, well, what is that thing that's underneath your home page? You got your little picture there. It's the picture of me and niece, and then all that stuff underneath, that direct column. What's that called? Your feed. Okay, so I don't know any of this stuff. I'm scrolling down there, and there's all these people with crazy names saying crazy things. And I'm like, wow. Where do they get off teaching this crazy mess? One guy's in there saying tithing's done away. But doesn't it always, when it comes back to, doesn't it always come back to telling you some point of God's commandments are not applicable today? Doesn't it always come back to that? Where's the people who were telling you how to keep these great laws in a modern life? Right. Oh, they'd be hungry hearts. Oh, here we go. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. Cold love is not a good thing, guys. But the one who stands firm to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as testimony to all nations, and then the end's going to come. All right, so there's going to be a preaching of the gospel. It's got to go out before the end can come. Why? Because Jesus said so. Like I said, these are prophecy basics. We have to master the basics before the deep sewed and the crazy esoteric stuff we all love is going to make any sense. Amen. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. All right, so now he's telling you there's going to come a time when the abomination that makes desolation is in the holy place. Well, right now there's no holy place. Right now there is not a holy place. He didn't say most holy place, by the way. You notice that, right? That's right. So something's got to happen for this abomination to make desolate. Now, I just want to point out to you that people apply this to Antiochus Epiphanes. And yes, there was an abomination that makes desolate, and everything was desolated. But evidently there's another one coming, because he doesn't reference Hanukkah 160 years behind him. He's talking about one coming up in the end. So if there was one in the time of Antiochus, and he's saying there's going to be one coming, past performance guarantees the future. So that's the thing about these dual prophecies. Anytime you've got one of these in the past, it's historical. It happened. You can't go back and say, oh, yeah, that wasn't really real. Then there's going to be the future one if it's still waiting out there to be done, like this. We're going to touch on this one a little more. Let no one on the housetop go down and take anything out of the house. So he's saying that when you see this stuff going on, jump off the house and run for your life. Don't go back and get nothing. Just run. And let no one in the field go back to get your clothes. Forget your clothes. Run for your life. You can get some clothes somewhere else. Run. Like fast. See, we don't look at it right. We're just reading it all. It's nice little reading and stuff. But when the stuff starts going down, you better have a place to run too. I like how Jill said it. Oh, no, I'm not running nowhere. I'm too old. I'm just going to go meet Jesus. That's all good. I'm too old to run. It's just over. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight, he's telling you to pray for this item, that your flight not take place in the winter or why not in the winter? Because you're not going back to get your clothes. You're not going to get your clothes. It's going to be cold. I sold cars with a German soldier, and he was in the Battle of Stalingrad. He said it was epic. It was apocalyptic. He said the battle went. It's flat on Russia, right? It goes in every direction forever. He said the battle went as far as you could see in either direction. It was huge. It was one of the largest land battles ever take place. And he said they sent us out there in our summer uniforms in wintertime to fight in Russia. So like I'm saying, he's saying pray it's not in wintertime because you're going to be cold because you don't have time to go get your clothes. You're just going to run for your life. But look at the last part of this. Or on the Sabbath. Or on the Sabbath. For then there's going to be distress unequal since the beginning of the world until now. Oh, it's always been this bad. Yeah, that's not what he said. And never to be equaled again. What's coming is worse than it's ever been, and it ain't ever going to happen again. So people say, oh, it's been that bad before. Not what's coming. Not what's coming. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. See, he's talking past tense to you, right? So from the future, he's looking back at you saying, if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hey, mirror, self, it was for you. It's for you the days are getting cut short. At that time, anyone says to you, look, here's the Messiah, or there he is. Don't believe it, for false prophets and false messiahs are going to appear and perform great signs and wonders. Been doing a little research on that here in the last 2 years, and I'm starting to understand it a lot better. Great signs and wonders to deceive. It's back to the beginning, right? Up here in verse 4, deceive. Even the very elect, if it's possible. See, I'm telling you ahead of time. All right, so let's break some of this down a little bit. Let's go to verse 20. Pray that your flight not take place on the Sabbath. Well, if the believers, the elect, aren't keeping Sabbath, it doesn't matter what day you flee. If every day's alike, Sabbath's irrelevant. This only matters if you're keeping Sabbath and can only travel a Sabbath day's journey. Huh. Wow, how about that? That means the audience for paying attention to the abomination and what you have to do about the abomination are Sabbath observant. No Sabbath, no dice. First rule of prophecy, Sabbath keepers can understand. Without Sabbath, you can't understand. This is the first rule of prophecy. You're not keeping Shabbos, and all the stuff starts going down, you're already deceived. You're already deceived. Now, look, a lot of y'all came up in Sunday churches, Baptist churches, Methodist churches, and one of the hardest things is to unlearn the Sunday things. Fortunately for me, I was a beachgoer. Now, I had more ex-Floridians in Corinth, so they understood what I meant. But beach is a religion in Daytona Beach. It's a religion. And people are far more scrupulous to observe that religion than churchgoers. Meaning if you are a beach goer, your rear end is on that beach Sunday morning early. And you're there for a long time. And ain't nobody complaining about going home. Oh, I wish that sermon was over. I want to go home. Ain't nobody going home. Ain't nobody going home. You're there for the day. You're there for as much of it as you can handle. Till the heat exhaustion sets in and you got to go home because you're thirsty. But what I'm telling you is, every Floridian knows this, beach is its own religion. So that was my religion until I got saved, and I got saved in the Worldwide Church of God, so I didn't have to learn other stuff. I only learned this stuff, Sabbath and holy days. And fortunately, I was a vegetarian, so the dietary law thing was real easy. Easier. But so since I came to Jesus, it's always been about Sabbath. So, all these little jewels were the things that were taught to me in the Worldwide Church of God. Sabbath is the important key to start Bible prophecy. You can't understand it without Sabbath. It just doesn't make sense. And when we get into other things, Sabbath is going to make a lot more sense to you. And so is prophecy, because it's the first key. So verse 24. False messiahs and false prophets are going to appear, and they're going to perform signs and wonders. Oh, yeah, look at all the stuff we're doing, man. You can't do that. How are you going to know the deception? Well, I'm going to tell you how. You keep Sabbath. That's how you're going to know the deception. It's going to be plain as the nose on their face. You're going to see it right away, because all of this stuff is going to happen while they're telling you to break God's laws and commandments. As first off, they're going to tell you, you don't got to keep Sabbath anymore. Oh, yeah, Sabbath's done away. Every time, right? Didn't the last batch of people who left start by going to a Sunday church? Didn't that how it started? That's exactly how it started. They started going to that Sunday church over there every week. And next thing you know, boom, they're bouncing right on out of here. You see, Sabbath is the key to knowing who the true God is. Sabbath is, didn't Sandy do this a couple weeks ago? I mean, I saw most of that sermon. It was a great message on Sabbath, right? Sabbath is the key to prophecy. It's the key to not being deceived. It's the key to always being grounded so that the sowed ideas don't blow you away. Always. Look at verse 12. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. Now, that's not many, right? Many is a lot of people. Few is very little people. But most is almost everybody. Okay, but the word here for wickedness is anomia. And as we've talked about a lot of times, that means Torahlessness. Because they're doing away with the commandments of God and the laws of God, the love of most is going to grow cold. Wow, man, this is these are the keys. These are the precious keys that Sabbath opens up for you to never be deceived. We were talking about the Jews, last night or 2 nights ago? And we were saying that they always acknowledge Sabbath even when they don't keep it. They acknowledge Torah even when they break it. You go into a Jewish temple, they got that beautiful ark up there. How many of y'all were with us when they opened the ark and you got to see all the Torah scrolls with all the crowns and dressed all beautiful, even when they break it? I never forget one of my friends. I'd be standing next to me, one of my temple friends, and they unrolled the Torah scroll, and I'm standing up there next to him, and he's just shaking with reverence for the Word of God, even though he doesn't do everything, right? See, we need to have the reverence because we do it. Love will be intense among us if we are observant. Because it's the opposite of what this says here, right? The love grows cold because of Torahlessness. That means the love will grow warm with Torahlessness. Amen? That's good logic right there. Love is the mark of discipleship. Jesus said, my disciples will love each other. No love, no disciple. So there has to be a body of Sabbath believers who love each other. Amen? Now look at verse 10. At that time, many will turn from the faith. And in the worship here, I was thinking about the chart, right? I see things in charts a lot. And so we start with a few people, and it goes up and down and up and down, and then we drop off, and then we go up and down and up and down, and then we drop off, and we go. Why? Because they're not getting the love of Torah. They're not getting the love of Torah, so after a while, they fall out because this is not important to them anymore. You got to put that taproot down in God's laws and commandments. They got to mean something to you. It's the very spoken word of God for how to carry a body of flesh on planet Earth. I can't teach you the deep things of prophecy, but I can't even teach you the deep things of the baptism of the Holy Ghost if you don't understand how you've got to carry your flesh in a body of mud on this planet Earth. It's just important. It's just important. Those commandments are everything. Everything gets built on them in that order. So let me ask you a question. Is this not going on all over Sabbathdom, where people are coming in, they're all excited at first, and then, they find that one commandment that they don't want to do, and then, I don't want to be there anymore. And so doesn't this happen everywhere? The falling out? Doesn't it happen everywhere, the falling out? Yes, it happens everywhere. Now look at verse 11. Many false prophets are going to appear and deceive many people. And like I said, I'm just getting involved in Facebook, but I'm shocked at how many supposed Torah teachers tell you you don't have to keep various parts of the law. This one I looked at early in the week was saying that tithing is done away. And he's using the Paleo-Hebrew for the Tetragrammaton and saying that Yod-He Vav-He does not command you to tithe in money. He commands you to tithe in fruit and grain and whatever. And I'm thinking, how silly. How silly. Okay, first of all, it's not your vegetable garden. It's not the fruit tree in your backyard. It's I'm in the apple business and I've got 30 acres of orchards and I'm going to tithe. But let me ask you a question. What are we going to do if a man with 30 acres of apples brings a tenth of his apples up in here? What are we going to do with all that? What are we going to do if a cotton farmer brings in a tenth of his 3,000 acre cotton farm, brings a tenth of that cotton up in here? What are we going to do with all that? You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be able to handle tithes like that if they brought them in. I can't weave clothes out of cotton. What are you supposed to do with this stuff? But evidently they never read Deuteronomy 14 where you turn your tithe into silver and bring it to Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles. How is the ministry going to operate without tithes? The landlord requires cash for the rent. And frankly, so does JEA. They want some money. Trust me, don't pay them and see how fast everything gets turned off. They ain't playing. They ain't playing. So, I mean, think about the impracticality. So we used to have a cattle farmer in the church down in Mississippi. Can you imagine if he brought a tenth of his new calves in? What am I going to do? What am I going to do with a tenth of his calves? I mean, I got no way to take care of calves and feed them and water them and all the rest. Where's the slaughterhouse and how am I going to get them there? I mean, you know what I'm saying? We could not handle agricultural produce. And then there's another thing I thought about with that in regard to that, and that is Abraham beat the kings of Persia. And he took the spoil. And he gave a tenth of it to Melchizedek. Well, that was money. That was gold and silver. He gave a tenth of the spoils to Melchizedek. Abraham wasn't a herder. He was a trader. He traded. He was on the main caravan route between Babylon and Egypt. You know this man made some money. Oh, come on, somebody. He was a trader. This man made some money. He went, you know, his herds were to feed all them people. He had 318 armed men of war go out and fight battle. This guy had an operation going on over there. He needed herds. You didn't have no refrigeration, right? So if you couldn't kill a live animal, you wasn't eating any meat.
Come on, preach it.
You know, I mean, it's just that simple. Ain't got no refrigeration going on there. Ain't no way to preserve nothing. You got to kill. Hey, when Jesus showed up, he had to kill a calf, right? Yeah, come on. False prophets deceive many people, and a lot of people get deceived by this stuff, you know. Lots of false teachers. Now look at verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom is going to be preached in the whole world, testimony to nations, and the end's going to come. How's anybody going to do this if you're not tithing? How are you going to preach the gospel worldwide if you have no way to organize enough funds to buy? Now, look, I love Tucker Carlson. Y'all know that. And I saw this week he's trying to raise money, start his own network. He's finding out right now it costs a lot more money than he thinks it does. Amen? It costs a lot more money. Now, look, I was mad at Fox News for a bit until I started thinking about it. $787 million is how much Fox News got fined. $787 million. That's real money even for a billionaire. That's real money even for a billionaire. So I was mad, but after a while it's like, I could understand. $787 million. Just imagine writing that check. $787 million and no $100. Just imagine writing that check. That hurt. That hurt somebody pretty bad. Yeah, and the worst part, it goes to our enemies, right? It goes to the people running the Dominion voting machines that are stacking all the ballots. So it's like the worst of all worlds. We take it out of the only place giving us any real news, and we give it to the people that are stealing the votes for the Democrats. This is not okay. Probably bumped our YouTube on that one, but that's all right. So, you know, it costs a lot of money to preach the gospel. But then if your doctrines are so jacked up, then you're not preaching the real gospel even if you had the money, right? Sound doctrine is everything. The soundness of teaching is everything. Because without it, you don't have anything. Now, I want to go back and I'm going to compare some of this, Matthew 24 to Revelation 6. So mark you a spot back there in Revelation 6, because we're going to go back and forth here for just a little bit. Now, this is standard Worldwide Church of God eschatology. Amen. I would say plain vanilla, but I actually like vanilla. Well, I do. I like vanilla. All right, so we're going to start Matthew 24. We're going to look at verse 4 and 5. Watch out, nobody deceives you. That's the very first thing Jesus said about what's coming next. There's going to be deceivers. They're going to deceive you if they can. And we talked briefly about how to not be deceived. Your first offense is Sabbath. For many are going to come in his name, claiming that he is Messiah, and will deceive many. So a lot of people telling you Jesus is Messiah are going to deceive many. Now, for the real bump off YouTube, I don't know how many of you saw this on Fox News, but this was in an Episcopal church where they were doing the Sparkle Creed. Did you see that? The Sparkle Creed from our non-binary God, claiming Jesus is Messiah and authorizing every abomination from the Old Testament. There it is. There it is. All right, let's go to Revelation 6. Verse 1, I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the seven seals, and then I heard one of the four living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come!" And there before me was a white horse, and its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. So a deceiver's going to run the planet. So don't be deceived. Again, Sabbath is your key. See, now is this the releasing, here in Revelation, of a demonic spirit to rile up the conquering? Or is it an angel who's given the task to release the demonic powers to rile up conquering? You see, this goes with the deception, the deceiving religion, right? The deceiving religion. Why do I say that? Because Jesus comes back on a white horse. Jesus is dressed in white. Jesus has a crown on his head, but Jesus is carrying a sword, not a bow. Right? So this is meant to look like Jesus and act like Jesus is supposed to act. Not how he's supposed to act, how he is supposed to act. You follow the shift there. So everybody has a caricature of Jesus, and that ain't who's coming. That ain't who died for you. And this caricature, this artificial creation, is going to deceive you. And you don't want to be deceived. I don't want to be deceived. So now, is this related to the lion of Daniel 7? I think it is. Nonetheless, a false deceiving religion is going to conquer in the name of Christ. Has this ever happened in the past? From the time of Polycarp on, amen? I mean, next apostle after John, lineage-wise, boom, deceiving starts, conquering starts right away. Boom, Polycarp stood up and said no. And because the Bishop of Rome didn't want to lose all you know why he didn't want to lose the Eastern churches? They had money. See, the East had the money, the West was broke. They don't tell you that in history books. You got to dig for that one. But like when Constantine built Constantinople, the east part of the empire was the richest. That's why the West got overrun in the 400s AD, and the East lived until the 1500s. They had money. And lots of it. Yes, it has. It has happened before. Will it return? Well, I think it's already working on its return. I think it's working real hard. All right, let's go back over to Daniel chapter 4, and we'll take up the next two verses. You'll hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. All right, let's go back over to Revelation. See, widespread warfare. Likely the result of the deceiving religion, but also some good old-fashioned bloodlust. Some people just like to kill. I don't know what it is about it. Well, we all know what it is about it, right? We all know who deceived Cain. The deception comes first. The bloodshed comes after. Verse 3, the Lamb opened the second seal, and I heard the second living creature say, "Come." Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. And to him was given a large sword. So is this a demonic spirit released to drive men mad to kill each other? Or maybe this one is an angel, because it comes from the four creatures. Maybe it's an angel tasked with releasing the demonic spirits to drive men mad to make them kill each other. I'm back and forth on that, right? I mean, they come from the throne room, so I can't believe there's that many demons up there. On the other hand, can't rule it out. Widespread warfare. Either way, this is the wars and rumors of wars from Daniel 24. Is this related to the bear of Daniel 7? I think that it is. I think it is. Nonetheless, widespread warfare has been the normal since the time of Jesus, and it's only gearing up for more. By defense stocks. Amen. By defense stocks. You know, the ones that make the weapons. I was watching, I watch the stock channel when I get dressed in the morning, and then I get dressed again before I go to work. And this one commentator was on there, and he said defense stocks, like Raytheon or General Dynamics or Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman. He said these are in a multi-decade bull market. Multi-decade bull market. And so one of the commentators questioned him, well, why do you think these stocks are set to run for that long? He goes, look at the world. Everybody's buying weapons and fighting wars. He said, these people are running wide open. They're going to run wide open for a long time. Just happened to own two of them, so it made me feel real good. So I've been sitting there doing nothing, bouncing along, and I'm like, maybe I should have bought something else, And then all of a sudden the guy's saying, oh no, multi-decade bull market. Oh, okay, feel real good now, yeah. I don't feel real good about the war, but I feel real good about my investment. All right, back to Matthew 24. Taking up where we left off in verse 7. There'll be famines and earthquakes. We mentioned the tidal waves from Luke in various places, and all these are the beginning of birth pangs. Now, famine's been pretty rare in the modern world, amen? Except in sub-Saharan Africa. And the reason why is mechanized agriculture. Good old fossil fuels to pump water out of the ground and irrigate the crops. Good old fossil fuels to run the tractors and cultivate. Good old natural gas from which we make fertilizer and pesticide. Now, I went to college to learn how to be natural gardening. But let me tell you something. I gave up a long time ago the idea you can feed yourself with that nonsense. I mean, Now, natural gardening is good. I mean, you pick one item that you eat, because, some things you grow take too much work between the garden and the table. So you never get around to doing it. You know what I'm saying? You maybe never pick them because you got to, like greens. I love greens, but doggone, you got to wash them, and you got to wash them, and you got to wash them, and then you got to chop them. And then you got to have this bushel basket to make about 3 servings. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I love them, but I end up just not wanting to spend all that time. Maybe I get more retired, I'll be more enamored. So I try to pick things that I'm willing to take from here and eat. But I do it based on I'm gonna use organic stuff so that this is medicinal, right? It's medicinal. It's going to put more in me than what I'm buying at Kroger. But let me just tell you something. If you had a garden the size of this room and you don't have any chemical fertilizer and you ain't got no pesticide, you ain't getting a whole lot out of there. I don't care who you are. You just ain't getting it. You can water all you want to. Oh, the bugs going to have a field day. Yeah, I think if they can get about halfway done, the bugs come in. Halfway in, the bugs come in. So we're going to have famine. So let's go to Revelation 6. Look at the next writer, verse 5. A lamb opened the third seal. I heard a living creature say, come. And I looked, there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 creatures. See, they got this wrong here. A quart of wheat for a day's wages and 3 quarts of barley. Don't damage the oil and the wine. See, looks like we're going to get skinny. Somebody wanting to diet. I'm like, no, diet's coming. I don't have to diet. I don't have to diet. Just enjoy the food now because it ain't going to last forever. I mean, we all going on a diet. God said we're going on a diet, so hey, eat, drink, and be merry because later on you're going to starve. So is this a demonic spirit released to take away our food? Or is it an angel task to release demonic spirits to take away our food? Either way, it's the famine from Matthew 24. Is this related to the leopard of Daniel 7? And I think I told you the story about how when I was working on the 4 creatures, I hung up on the leopard. I could not figure out the leopard. I just hung up. I hung up on it. And it was 2 weeks before trumpets, and I got on my face up here behind the podium because everybody, y'all were all up there, and I had to have a place to get on my face and get near the Lord. I'm like, Lord, I can't figure this out, man. I'm stumped. And he goes, authority. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. Because the leopard's given authority, right? And he goes, read it the other way. You're looking at it this way. Turn around and look at it that way. So, okay, we stayed up late talking, and then the first thing I did when I got up in the morning was get into concordance. I'm supposed to go to work, but I'm in there. I can't stop. I got to figure this out. And I thought, authority, Shults. And at first I thought, okay, famine is like authoritative, right? When famine comes in, it rules everything. You don't care about nothing else except your next meal when you're starving. But it was later I was watching Tucker Carlson, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't believe I'm watching this. It's not famine has authority. It's famine comes from authority. Because you got countries that are banning fossil fuels and chemical fertilizer and pesticides. Now, there were 3 he focused on, but I can only remember the names of 2, Sri Lanka and Ghana. Now, in Sri Lanka, it was so bad that the Fox is running the news show, right? The little news clip from Sri Lanka. And there were like, guys, you know the old mail carts, the little Cushman mail carts? Okay, that's what they drive for cabs. So these cabbies are lined up for 3 days trying to get gas so they can drive people around the capital, Ceylon. Then they go to one of the cab drivers' homes that they interviewed, and the little wife has got a propane tank, like you hook up on your barbecue grill, except there's a cooktop that screws into the top of the propane tank. And I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, this is horrible. Man, I don't want to cook on a propane tank. The fire's right here at the tank. If it blows up, you hear. I want a pipeline. I want to get over here. If it blows up over there, at least I got a chance. If it blows up in front of me, it's over. And she said, I'll never forget this, I have just enough gas to finish cooking this meal, and we have nothing. No electricity, no water, no gasoline, no propane, no food, because they took away the chemical fertilizer, and they took away the mechanized farming, and they took away the pesticide, and they took away the irrigation, and they had nothing. They left those people in Sri Lanka, which used to be the jewel of the Indian Ocean, and they left them with nothing. So they had famine because of their stinking authority. So these people bomb rushed the presidential palace. A lot of them got killed, but they ran out of bullets, and the people keep coming because they got nothing to lose. You took everything from us, we're killing you. And they all stormed the presidential palace, and the president barely got out of there on a plane and left. They want to do that here. They're trying to do it in the Netherlands. Your president wants to do that here. He wants to take away your chemical fertilizer. He wants to take away your fossil fuels. He wants to take away your electricity. What do you think it means when everything's going to be green? All of the solar panels and wind farms in California can run California for half a second. Half a second. They have plowed. Look, I was on the way to Florida, and there's a big pine forest there just south of Atlanta. And they mowed the whole thing down, like 30 acres. They mowed it down for a solar farm. And I'm thinking to myself, you mowed down 30-acre forest of pine trees, making beautiful oxygen and purifying the air for a bunch of stinking solar panels that wouldn't run the signs in Atlanta for 30 seconds. What are we doing? Electricity comes from fossil fuels. That's where it comes from. It ain't going to come from nowhere else. So when they take away your energy, they're taking away your food. So at the same time, when they're saying, oh, yes, Green New Deal, what they're saying is, I'm going to starve you to death. I tell you what, you take away air conditioning in the South, there'll be a riot up in here. You ain't even seen a riot in Ceylon like you're going to have here if you take away air conditioning in the South. Oh, my goodness. You ain't got enough bullets. You ain't got enough nuclear weapons. Boy, it'll be on like neck bones. And the Yankees don't understand that. They really don't. I mean, I'm not trying to be ugly enough, but they don't understand that. Because it cools off at night there. Amen? It don't cool off at night here. You know, it was hotter when I left my house this morning at 7 a.m. than it was when I came up in here. Evidently, y'all got some rain. It was 86 degrees when I left my house this morning. It was 84 when I hit Bemis. I'm like, wow, it's cooler than when I left. So widespread famine is about to come. Now, back in Matthew 24, verse 9. Then you're going to be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you'll be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many are going to turn from the faith, and they're going to betray and hate each other, and false prophets are going to appear and deceive many people. Widespread killing of believers. See, we think it's bad now when they leave church. Wait till they're killing us because we won't give up Shabbat or Moed. Now, Revelation 6 and verse 7. Last time to flip here. When the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come," and I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following, the grave was following close behind. He was given a power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. This is the results of all of those other bad things. All of them are coming in at the same time, and they're ransacking everything. And a lot of people are going to die. A quarter of the people on this earth, we got what, about 9 billion? 9.5, that's a lot of people, a quarter of them to die. This is not going to be fun. So is this a demonic spirit released to do the killing, or is it an angel who's sent to release the demonic spirits? Now, is there a connection between this and the great and terrible beast of Daniel 7? I think there is. And the interesting tie is that to the Daniel 7 is the phrase, a quarter of mankind are going to be killed by the wild beasts of the earth. Now, I couldn't figure this out. This was a real mystery to me when I was working on Daniel 7. And I was sitting up in here on Fifth Sabbath, and Brother Chris was preaching, and he was talking about the blessings in Revelation 26. And one of them was, I will keep the wild beast from overrunning the land. And that's when I got it. Ding! The wild beast. Yeah, the great wild beast, Daniel 7. Yeah, God's going to put them back in the ocean because they've been running wild. Why were they running wild in Canaan before the Israelites got there? Because the pagans are worshiping them. Oh, then you start doing the word studies. Okay, so wild beast in Daniel 7 is the Aramaic word kiva. So you look up kiva, and it's got all the little goodies, a lot of that entomological stuff I don't understand. But I understand this. When you got a big capital H right there and a number, that's the Hebrew equivalent. So you look that number up, and it's kaya. And that number kaya is the same one used for wild beasts in Leviticus 26. And it's the equivalent of this Greek word right here. So a quarter of the world's people are going to be killed from the deceiving, the false religion, the warfare, the famine, and the kiva. Ooh, that's heavy. That's heavy. There's another link. We're talking about persecuting us to death, right? The other link is the great and terrible beast of Daniel 7 has 10 horns. But then a little horn comes up. All right, now it said little horn 3 times. Look it up. Daniel 7, it says little horn 3 times. Except in the Aramaic, it doesn't say little horn 3 times. It says little horn, then it says great horn, then it says company of horns. No one's expecting that, right? But the little horn, the saints are handed over to it for a time, times, and half a time. So is this related to Revelation 6? I think it is. I think it is. Because this is related to Matthew 24 and the persecution. Now, when you get into prophecy, there are 3 periods. There's the time of Jacob's trouble. There's the great tribulation, and there's the great and terrible day of the Lord, otherwise known as the wrath of God. All right? So we're going to start in Jeremiah 30. I'm going to give one brief scripture for each one of these, show you where it is. There's a lot of them. This is not the study to run those down. We'll run those down another time. I may do the key of David next. Key of David's important, amen? You got to understand who you are in prophecy. It's scarier. Jeremiah 30, verse 7. How awful that day will be. No other day will be like it. It is the time of Jacob's trouble, but he'll be saved out of it. They actually say that as a prayer in the Jewish temple. They actually say that as a prayer, one of their prayers. but he'll be saved out of it. Time of Jacob's trouble. It's very important to understand that. Now let's go to Revelation 7 and verse 14, and that will tell you about the great tribulation. Now, someone was talking to me about the word tribulation in the King James, and you got to be careful because a lot of words in Elizabethan English do not mean the same thing as they do today. So you have tribulation used like 15 or 20 times in the New Testament in the King James, but they're not all the same Greek word. This Greek word is not the same Greek word as used in Matthew 24. So if you're in Matthew 24, it says after the tribulation of those days, blah, blah, blah. That's a different word. It's not this word. Revelation 7 and verse 14, asking about the people in white robes, he said, these are those who've come out of the great tribulation. So there's a time of Jacob's trouble, and there's a great tribulation. All right, let's go to Zephaniah. Anybody know where Zephaniah is? It's right before Haggai. Going back, you got Malachi, Zechariah, Haggai, and Zephaniah. Zephaniah is a great book, by the way. Not enough people read Zephaniah. Great book. It's scary. It's scary. You need to get some old school religion? You read Zephaniah. You need to get your life back in order? You get a little feisty there with some of those rules? You read Zephaniah, man. It gets you back in line real fast. Chapter 1 and verse 14. Now, again, the print's big. You can see it. Sometimes they screw it up. All right. So the great and terrible day of the Lord is near and coming quickly. The cry on the day of the Lord is bitter. The mighty warrior shouts his battle cry. That day will be a day of wrath, a day of distress and anguish, a day of trouble and ruin, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and blackness, a day of the trumpet and battle cry. It's a day of the wrath of God. It's horrible. Okay, you link all the verses in the different places together, and it's not a day you want to be there. Amen? I don't know what Dad say. I said, I need to learn how to defend myself. He goes, best defense, no be there. Sometimes he was wise beyond his ability. So these are the constituent parts of the end time, and people like to lump them all together and gloss it all over and say, oh, yeah, the Great Tribulation. Now, we all thought the whole program was 7 years. And I guess you add 42 months twice, you get 7 years. I'm not quite sure how we put that together like that. But when I was studying this a year ago, the Lord asked me a question one day when we were worshiping. And he said, son, do you really think the earth could stand God's wrath for 3.5 years? It's amazing how things seem so nonsensical when he asks you a question. Do you really think the earth could handle 7.5 years? And I'm thinking, we probably couldn't handle a millionth of a second of Avi's wrath. I mean, really? I mean, just flash and everything's incinerated in nuclear fire, right? I mean, how much wrath can we take? Not a whole lot. So anyway, he showed me how to work these, and I've been working on time. We'll eventually get there. Working on time. He's showing me, how many of y'all have seen napkin rings, where the napkins are fanned on each side of the ring, so you got a fan and a ring and another fan. He was showing me key things. This is a ring, and then I want you to trace these back from it, and then I'll show you how to go forward from it. And he showed me 3 rings the other day when I was praying and studying, and interesting. And he showed me the timeline. He said, well, this counts from here going forward, that counts from here going backward. I'm like, oh, well, now you tell me. But we'll get to that. We're going to get to that over the summer. Going to do a little work on that. Time. Timing is everything, said the old stockbroker. Either way, we got 3 parts. The time of Jacob's trouble is going on right now. So who's Jacob? Important question, right? Who's Jacob? Why do we care about the time of Jacob's trouble? Genesis chapter 48. I'm going to show you why the time of Jacob's trouble is important to you. In 21st century America, with a crazy moron for a president. I'm being polite. We're on camera, right? I'm being polite. I use a bad language. I say nothing ugly. Much. Genesis 48 and verse 3. Jacob, time of Jacob's trouble, right? Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz. Okay, so what Jacob's going to tell you, it wasn't passed down to him from somebody. Oh, yes, my daddy Isaac, he passed this down to me from his daddy Abraham. No. Jacob's telling you God Almighty showed up and we had a talk. Now, who are you going to believe in this passage? God Almighty showed up and he and Jacob had a talk, right? Here's the results of it. He said to me, I'm going to make you fruitful and increase your numbers, and I'm going to make you a company of nations. Oh, wow. A company of nations. That's a lot. That's more than one. That's more than one. That's a lot. And I'm going to give this land, Canaan, as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you. So God Almighty shows up and he says to Jacob, here's title deed to Canaan. It's yours. Well, who can give it? God, obviously, right? Who can take it away when God gives it to you? Nobody, right? Now then, your 2 sons born to you in Egypt before I came to you here will be reckoned as mine. Okay, so God Almighty appeared to me at Luz, and he promised to make me a company of nations, and he gave me title deed to the land, and I'm adopting you boys. I'm adopting you boys. You boys are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh are mine. Just like Reuben and Simeon are mine. I'm adopting you boys. They belong to me. Any other children you have are yours, and they'll reckon their inheritance unto your brothers. But your 2 boys are mine now. Oh, wow. It's pretty heavy-duty stuff, right? Now, down in verse 12, Joseph removed. Now, see, Joseph knew what he was doing. Joseph knew what he was doing. Joseph knew that the inheritance, he just got a double portion, right? Israel just went from 12 tribes to 13 tribes. How many times 13 in our heritage? A lot. The number's in there, a lot. Okay, Joseph knew what he was doing. See, he already knew Reuben blew the inheritance. He already knew that it doesn't go from the firstborn of the first wife to the secondborn of the first wife. It goes from the firstborn of the first wife to the firstborn of the second wife, and he knows he's firstborn of the second wife. He already knows concubines don't even count. So once Reuben blew it, it's Joseph's. He already knows when he goes to see his father Jacob that I'm going to get the birthright. He already knows why he's going. They said, your father's sick. Joseph said, grabbed his boys and said, we're going to see Grandpa. Why? Because he got an inheritance coming. He already knows. All right, verse 12. Joseph removed them from Israel's knees and bowed with his face to the ground. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right. Why? Because Manasseh's firstborn, he's pushing him over to get the firstborn birthright. But Israel crosses his hands, and he gives the birthright to Ephraim. Then he blessed Joseph and said, may the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked faithfully, the God who's been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel, that means Jesus, who has delivered me from all harm, may he bless these boys. May they be called by my name. Oh, what did he say? He said, may they be called by my name. Who's Jacob? Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh are Jacob. There ain't nobody but Ephraim and Manasseh can be Jacob. Nobody else. He put his name on the boys. May they be called by my name and the names of my father, Abraham and Yitzchak. Okay, so when you're talking about the Anglo-Saxon people, the Saxon means Sax sons, descendants of Isaac. The German Saxons, it's a different word, a different tribe of people, has a totally different meaning to it. They're not S-A-X-O-N. They're S-A-C-H-E-N. Totally different word, totally different tribe, totally different meaning. But when you're talking about Anglo-Saxon people, you're talking about Sax sons. Isaac's sons. Why? Because the name of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is on Ephraim and Manasseh. And if you look back through history, and I think Kelly detailed this one feast, 2018, 2019, all of Manasseh and Ephraim filtered through northern Europe together. Ephraim stopped, and we kept going. all the way to the United States. When Joseph saw his father placed in his right hand, I made the increase greatly on the earth. Who was increased greatly like us? Nobody. When Joseph saw his father placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was displeased. So he took hold of his daddy's hand to move it. And Joseph said, no, son, no. He too will be a great nation. But his brother is going to be greater, and he's going to be a company of nations. Oh, come on now. You can't make this stuff up. He's going to be a company of nations. The only company of nations that's ever existed in our human history is the British Empire. That's right. Don't tell me about nothing else. And then he said this. He blessed him that day and said, may your name, in your name will Israel pronounce this blessing. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. The Jews do it to this day. But let me tell you something. Judah ain't here. Judah ain't here. It's Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh. Judah ain't here. It is Ephraim and Manasseh get this blessing. We got the blessing. They're blessing their sons, say, make us like you. We don't bless our kids because we think we're Gentiles acting stupid. So the descendants of Joseph are reckoned as Jacob in end-time prophecy. Where are we now? Flip over a page to chapter 49, verse 22. Where are we now? Genesis 49, verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring whose branches climb over a wall. What that means is we're colonizing people. We're colonizing people. The British Empire colonized the whole planet. They colonized the whole planet. Nobody else has ever colonized the whole planet before. The British Empire colonized the whole planet. Ain't nobody ever done that. With bitterness, look here. The Kaiser was first cousins to King George. He tried to have a little piece of empire like the British, and it bankrupted him. He probably could have won World War I if he hadn't spent all his time running all over the world colonizing places he had no place being. See, it's given to Israel to have this. It wasn't given to him to have that. He should have just been happy. I was looking at a map one time of the German Empire and the Austrian Empire, and I'm thinking, you guys sitting in the middle of the world, you're on the greatest trade routes of all. Why don't you just do business and make money? I mean, what you doing with all the rest of this? I know you need an army to beat Russia because they're crazy over there. You live in a bad hood. I get that part. But what you doing trying to run with the British all over the world with ships and colonies all over? You in the middle of the world. All trade has to go through Central Europe. Man, just make money and get rich. It's like, how do you blow this? Only Germans could blow that. And then worse, they got the Austrian School of Economics, which is like the greatest school of economics on free market capitalism on earth. It's like, you got the Austrian School of Economics here, you don't even run your own program. Man, y'all are stupid. All right. Joseph, with bitterness, archers attacked him. They shot at him with hostility, right? In almost all of our wars, someone else started them with us. But his bow remained steady, his strong arm stayed limber because of the hand of the mighty one of Jacob, because of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, because of your father's God who helps you, because of the Almighty who blesses you. We've won every war. I could stack, I don't have time anymore, but I could stack stories for the rest of the night about miracles that God did to give us victory. I'll tell you one, though. So, every little boy reads the war stories, and they used to have these war story books for kids in the elementary school I went. And I read the book on Midway about 40 times. And you do realize that the Japanese are pummeling this island because they want to make it like an aircraft carrier. They want to be able to base planes there to hit the mainland and shut down the U.S. Navy out of San Francisco. But we found their fleet first. You know how? The guy was blown off course. Oh, you didn't get it. The guy's supposed to be running over here, but he ends up over there, and it's like God said, oh, there they are. But he let the Japanese find out he didn't know where, though. But he let them find there was a fleet. So he had all these bombers on the deck ready to take off. Man, we finna bomb Midway off the planet, man. We got the sand dredge to put it back up there where we can build on it. And the number one admiral in the Japanese Navy finds out, oh, there's an American fleet here. So he takes all his planes back down the hangar deck and starts loading them with torpedoes. But our dive bombers catch them while they're below deck, arming weapons in the planes. That's why when we bombed them, they blew all to pieces. Because they had all that live ordnance. You can't make this stuff up, man. I can tell you stories. I mean, you're like me. You've read every war story known, right? God has done miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. There's so many we can't even relate them all to make us win every time. All right, look at this other one. The blessings of the skies above. We dominate the place. We dominate airspace, satellite. We're it. If we decide you ain't coming off the ground, you ain't coming off the ground. If we decide you can't see in the air, you can't see in the air. Blessings of the deep springs below. Number one nation by far and away, like 80, 85%. Deep sea drilling rigs, USA, USA. I could go on with these like cordwood. You know, we pump so much water out of Kansas, we've actually dropped the topography 10 feet. Irrigating all that wheat. We dropped the topology 10 feet by pumping out all the water. Nobody has this stuff but us. Then you got the Father's blessings greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains. The Appalachians, it was the original gold rush. Where do you think Pennzoil came from? It's the Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania, the original gold rush. So all the industrial age in America was built off of all the coal and the oil and the steel and the copper that's in the Appalachian Mountains. You know, we got more coal up in Appalachia right now than we could ever possibly use. You know that, right? I'm sorry, I'm pointing the wrong way. It's over there. We got more coal over there. I'm not talking about in this time. I'm talking about when the kingdom of God is finished and we're ready to go out into the galaxies, there'll still be coal over there for us to use. We're never going to run out of coal. It's like God washed all the coal up in the Appalachian Mountains from the whole earth when he flooded it. I'm serious. Yes, that was his plan. So the USA and the UK fulfilled these prophecies and also the ones given by Moses. We're the only two nations who even come close to living up to all these prophecies. So we're Jacob and we're in trouble, which continues to escalate as time advances. So the second rule of prophecy, remember your first rule, Sabbath is the key to not being deceived. Second rule is the US and the UK are Jacob. You got to understand that. You're reading these Old Testament prophecies and you don't understand that, you just reading. That's why everybody else you watch on TV says all of these fantastic, crazy things. Because they don't understand who Israel is in the last days. You live in here. People say, oh, I want to go visit Israel. Like I drive up and down the street every day. I'm here. Maybe I want to go visit a nicer looking place in Israel, but I'm already here. Luke 21. And I'm going to talk about the key of David. Maybe I'll do it next. But I'm going to talk about the key of David another time because that is an important link to nail this down. So we're going to go to Luke 21, verse 34. Luke 21, verse 34. Be careful or your hearts are going to be weighed down with dissipation. This is carousing, but the Greek word doesn't mean carousing. The Greek word means dissipation. Drunkenness and the anxieties of life. So the day will close on you suddenly like a trap. For it's going to come on all who live on the face of the earth. Be always on the watch and pray that you may be able to what? Escape. Pray that you may be able to escape and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. All right. Dissipation. Dissipation are things that dilute your walk with God. Dissipation are things that come in your life and overwhelm you so that you don't get your Bible study, you don't get your prayer, you're not doing the things you're supposed to do. It dilutes it all out. Dissipate. Dissipation comes from dissipate. Dissipate it all out. Dilute it all out. Everything in this world right now is geared towards diluting out your walk with God so you can't have the one you're supposed to have. And he's saying, be careful. Watch out. Now, we were in Matthew 24 a minute ago, and it said, he who endures to the end, the same shall be. Okay, that Greek word is soteriera. It's used saved a lot, but it's used rescue. So you already saved, or he wouldn't be talking to you. You're already saved because you're keeping the Sabbath and you're watching for the abomination makes desolate. He's saying, endure to the end, you're going to get rescued. Here he's saying, pray that you may escape. I hope you're doing that daily now, right? I don't know, a couple more years of President Biden, I think you'll really be ready to pray for some escape. I mean, you're going to be coming over here and flooding the altar with tears. What he said in one of the prophets, flood my altar with tears. Oh, please, Lord, They're crazy here. Beam us out. Beam us out, Lord. It's crazy up in here. They nuts. Oh, drive up and down Highland twice. You be back in here praying for escape. Get me out of here. Dissipation's being too busy for God. We got to manage our time or our time's going to manage us. These are the end times. I hope you watch Fox News enough to know that. We can't let the anxieties of life drown out our relationship with Jesus. And we got to pray to escape. Matthew 24 and verse 31. Then we're going to do rescue in another message, but I wanted to point this out to you that Matthew 24 and verse 31. So there's a reference to the rescue in verse 13, and then down here in verse 31 there's another rescue reference, and then Luke 21:36 is a rescue reference, right? Rescue references, right? So he says, I will send the angels with a loud trumpet call, and they're going to gather the elect from the four winds of heaven and from one end of the heavens to the other. Okay, so you've got the people living on the earth, and you got the people who've already gone on before. Isn't that what the Apostle Paul says? We will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep in the Lord. We all get our new bodies together. So they get pulled up, we get pulled up. Boom, we're resurrected. Aren't you ready for your new model? Get the new car smell. Talking to my dad before he died, they actually sell something to get rid of new car smell. And we're like, what? I mean, that was a whole big thing. It was the new car smell, man. I mean, I hate when it left. I know, right? So it's worth noting there's an escape. Now, I'm not going to read all this, but from verse 36 to verse 42, he is talking about it's going to be as in the days of Noah. People eating and drinking, nobody's paying any attention. How can I say it's before the tribulation? Because after the tribulation, that's not going to be going on. During the wrath of God, that's not going to be going on. We already read that it's going to be famine. So once some riders start, there ain't going to be no eating and drinking. It's going to be famine time, right? So this has got to be before all that happens, because no one's paying attention. They're looking at you like you're a nut. Oh, what do you mean you go to church all day? Right? I tell them when I'm around town, oh, I hope you have a good weekend, Bill. Oh, I'm going to, man. I'm going to be in church Friday night till Saturday night. It's going to be glorious. They were like, you go to church the whole time? Oh, yeah, I can't wait, man. Oh, it's going to be great. I have fun at church. I don't know about them, but so people have debated for years which is the one you want, taken or left. Well, the Greek is very clear. Taken's the one we want. Paralambano to the wedding. Amen. Paralambano to the wedding. John chapter 14. I will take you to be with me. Paralambano. Left is a phiame, divorced. So evidently the rescue happens before either the tribulation or the great and terrible day of the Lord. Why? Because people are totally unaware. The third rider takes away the drinking and the eating, and the fourth rider's bringing mass death. So if the rescue happens while the biggest thing you got to worry about is dissipating your walk, nothing bad's really happened yet. It's still in the good times, and it's the good times that are drowning you out. Amen? People drifting about with all kind of strange doctrines. He's telling you to be warned from the deception that's all around you. He's telling you to endure to the end. He's telling you to watch and pray. Now, if you've been Hungry Hearts any length of time, you know people come and go. Forget who I was talking to. I don't even think they were at a Sabbath church. They were talking people coming and going. People coming and going. It's at every church I know of, people coming and going. But it's more in the Sabbath churches. People dropping out for worldly pursuits. I don't want to do all that. They drop out. Some are folding back into Sunday observance. Oh, no, I'm going back where I came from. I want the blue pill. If you can be bothered to come to church and participate. So get strong. Know what is true. Recover your first love. Pray to escape. Learn how to stand before Yeshua Messiah as a trusted servant. Adonai Yeshua wins. Pastor Bill Shults, I hope that you enjoyed this message. I hope it encourages you to have a closer walk with Jesus and helps you to get stronger in the Word of God. If you're interested in more information about Hungry Hearts Ministries, you can go to either one of our websites, hungryheartsministry.com or hungryheartschurch.com for more information. We have many free materials available, including our magazine, Pursuit. If you will email me at hungryheartsmin@aol.com, I will mail this to you every quarter. The only thing that we're ever going to use your mailing address for is to send you this magazine or maybe invite you to a meeting. Hope you enjoyed this message, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.